Hi guys, it's Angel and welcome to my show. Started it off a little bit differently today. Today we started off with the answer to the contest. So for those of you who haven't figured it out yet, we're going to talk a little bit about that a little later on in the show. But it's one of my favorite movies. It is Jumanji Next Level. Didn't hold out much hope for that movie. But then when I saw it, especially with one of the absolutely special characters, I fell in love with it. And it was really, really cool. So today, everybody, we're going to be talking about psychic work and the media. In fact, we're going to be talking about mediumship and the media and how Hollywood has really affected how we perceive psychics, mediums, people with abilities. And it's really neat because, well, before I do that, I'm going to say hi to everybody. Hi, Maria. Hi, Marie-Claude. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Julie. How are you guys? We've got a lot of people coming online today, and I'm really excited about that because we have a lot to talk about. This is going to be a really fun episode simply because I'm melding two of my favorite subjects. So everybody knows when I started, all of my fans know that when I started out in theater and film. And I garnished a great respect for movies. I watch movies from a very different perspective than other people do. I look at it from the perspective of producer, director, actor. And because I see it that way, my entire world of the psychic is actually influenced by it, because I know as an actor that was my safe way of expressing my energetic abilities. In fact, last week I wrote an entire article about that because actors are, as Ben Kingsley actually stated once in the Actors Studio, which was a really great show where they interviewed actors every week. He said actors are a tribe of energetic. They are psychic. He actually physically said that. I remember almost falling off my couch because in that moment, all of these pieces came together for me. It made sense because we as human beings want a safe way of expressing our energetic abilities. And for an actor, for a storyteller to write, to be inspired, that's our way of energetically expressing ourselves in a safe manner. And we all do. You know, teachers are empathic and they connect to their students, and some of them know what they need just by being in their presence. That's what makes an amazing teacher, that empathy that they have. And it's really, really cool because as an actor, we get to exchange energy, not only with the actors on stage, but with the audience as well. So it feeds us. And that's what we really jive on, is that energy that moves through us. So as an artist, we have to understand that this is a healing art. Movies, film and television and theater, stage, all of these different things, dance, all of these different wonderful expressions of energy are things that we want to share. Not only do we want to share that story, but we want to share that energy with people. We actually get a high off that. It's almost like a drug. So when you go to the theater and when you go to movies, please understand that what you're feeling, all those emotions that are being evoked, all of those feelings that you get, that's an energetic expression coming from the actors, coming from the director, coming from that group of people that's trying to pull something out of you to elevate you or to heal you or to help teach you something. You know, art is there to be able to express, to disturb, to teach, to heal, all of these different things. So now that I've kind of had my spiel on that, I want to talk a little bit about what we did this week. What we did this week with this contest was I challenged people to really take a look at this movie and see what it was that connected to psychic abilities, to the skills. Now, I got some really interesting answers, which I thought were really cool. Now, I have to tell you, my favorite answer, and Nancy's not with us yet, but Nancy Pace, she thought that I was connected to Bethany. Now, the question was, you had to answer the two questions. What is my favorite character in the movie Jumanji, The Next Level? And you had to answer why. So Jumanji: The Next Level has a couple of characters, I realize now. Bethany turns into a horse, and then also body changes with another character who becomes the horse, which is really cool because that's shape-shifting. However, although Bethany did turn into the horse, and as Nancy Pace had said, it was a really, really cool character that she became the map maker, because they actually switched body and she became the map maker. She thought it was the map maker, and the map maker, which was the professor, could see what others could not see. He led them to the places that others could not. He was a guide. So she connected that to healing, and I thought that was my favorite. That was my favorite answer. So kudos to you, Nancy. However, my favorite character in Jumanji, drum roll please for everybody that's here, was Mouse Finbar, because he turns out to have a new skill that's been given to him, and that is linguistics. At first, I didn't even get it. I was just like, linguistics? That makes no sense for a zoologist. I don't get it. But then there was a scene, as I showed you earlier, for those who are here, the scene with the camel. And he starts talking to the camel. Hi, Carla, how are you? Yes, Sarah Mitchell, you are correct. It was Mouse Finbar, and he is an animal communicator. He is my favorite character in the whole movie. And it actually wasn't the camel scene that did it. There is another scene in the movie, which I'm going to play right now. And that particular scene is what really did it for me, because this is what it's like to be an animal communicator. Now, once we talk about this, we're going to move into the next part. But here we go. This is one of my favorite scenes. So very Harry Potter, don't you think, everybody? Isn't it just a beautiful film? Like, I love that part. I was actually almost going to cry when I was watching it right there. My reality is that right there, that is what animal communications is like. This is what it's like. Now, having said that, when we're talking to a horse or a dog or a cat, it really is no different than talking to a spirit who's crossed over. Nice segue, eh? I'm good. I'm that good. And my reality is that when we talk to animals and we talk to those who are deceased, it's similar, because we are energy. This body encases a spirit. So whether that spirit is alive, whether that spirit is in front of us or in a different place in the world, it really makes no difference. Energy is energy. I've actually had psychics come to me and go, how do you talk to an animal and talk to a dead person? How do you do that? That's so amazing. Actually, it's the same thing. It's a limiting belief that we can't do both. So for me, I find that when I talk to somebody who's crossed over, which we call mediumship, I am using the same skills that I use talking to an animal. Now, having said that, it is different. There are similarities between it because the vibrations are different. Those who have crossed over no longer have a corporeal body. They don't have that encasing. So the energy is pure. It actually can feel heavier. When a spirit passes through me, and you'll find a lot of readers do go through that, I can feel it. It almost pulls me. We experience it differently to a degree, but the reality is when you feel something go through you, you'll feel it go through you. That's all there is to it. And what's really funny is everyone, and I mean everyone, has experienced this at some point in their lives. It's whether or not they understand what's happening to them, whether or not they freak out, which is a normal reaction, by the way, people. The first time this ever happened to me, I had someone come through a wall, and I wanted to run. I don't know what kept me there. I don't know if it was the paralyzing fear or the acceptance that I was being told it was my great-grandfather, Maltese Bosnanu. And he spoke to me, and this was my great-grandfather on my mother's side. Someone says here, I did not know you were an actor as well. Yes, I was for 20 years. And then I retired, and it was after I retired that I actually found this. So I always needed something energetic. Now, what's really interesting is that even growing up, the whole concept of mediumship was kind of like, that's something you see in the movies. It's so hokey. It's so this. It's so this. There's always been a stigma to it. And this isn't just because of what history has taught us, because, psychics and that kind of thing have always been looked down on. Now, they have been utilized by the police. They have been utilized by officials in high governmental places. We've heard of United States presidents using them in the past. My reality is that we are acceptable as long as we are behind the scenes. But the question always remains how we get our answers. Now, a lot of us get our answers through angels, guides, guardians, that kind of thing. However, some of us actually get answers from the dead. And that's a really interesting concept, because some of us don't rely on angels and guides and guardians, although we have the knowing, which is where they come in as well. Sometimes we just know things. Sometimes we can actually get those answers from those who are crossed over, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they're our ancestors or our deceased loved ones who are giving us the information. I have had many instances where I'm sitting in front of somebody and somebody's brother shows up or somebody's sister shows up. I did my research this week. Fun research. I had a great time. I watched a lot of movies where psychics were concerned, read a lot of comic books, old TV shows, Thundercats, Chitara. I used to watch this show, and I was completely oblivious to the fact that there were characters in shows that I watched even as a child who were psychic. Even in the X-Men, Xavier is considered, Charles Xavier, the man who runs the X-Men and the school, he is considered psychic. Jean Grey, one of the most powerful psychics in the world or on the earth who has ever been seen, who is also an X-Man, is considered psychic. So what is that ability to connect to the dead? We call that mediumship, but also there is clairvoyance, which is somebody who can do the whole gambit. I can be considered a clairvoyant, although I can do more. So there's really no real label for certain people like myself. There is clairvoyance. There are medical intuitives, people who can see the medical issues that are happening. Those people are very focused on that particular thing. Each of us has a specialty. Animal communicators, which we talk about a lot, obviously. Mediumship, though, is the specific gift of talking to the dead. Now, we're not talking about necromancy. We're not talking about bringing the dead back to life. This is not what we're talking about. That is a whole other concept that has nothing to do with mediumship. What we're talking about here is we're talking about a spirit who has crossed over that has something unresolved, or someone here who needs comfort or needs resolution, and a spirit who has crossed over who will come and help with that resolution. Now, we do have also those psychics who work with ancestors like myself, my boss Nanu, my great-grandfather, who would teach me certain things, which was really cool. So that brings me to a particular show called The Dresden Files. Really cool show, shot in Toronto in the 90s. This particular show focused on a wizard. Now, this particular wizard had a ghost who worked with him who was trapped in a skull. Now, see, this is the thing. Media will embellish the work we do in certain ways. I'm going to get to some movies where you want to watch them because it's really what it's like. But we're going to start here. This embellishment of what mediumship is, or what talking to ghosts is, helps us as an audience understand a little bit better or connect better to what is going on in the show. However, it also connects us to a really deep part of ourselves that really does enjoy this aspect of who we are. We live vicariously through the characters. I mean, the reality is I think as long as it's a really nice ghost, like Casper or, this character in this particular show, Dresden Files, This particular ghost helps Dresden, and he is his conscience. He's his Jiminy Cricket. He kind of sits there and gives him advice. He always warns him off on things. He's actually quite obnoxious and annoying, but he's really great. What makes Dresden Files really cool, though, is they actually make this character somewhat relatable. They give him a hockey stick. That actually is his wand. A drumstick as a wand, and his hockey stick as his, what do they call them, staff. And it's a really neat, fun little show that you can see on Netflix right now. Actually, it's airing, and it's a fun show that kind of shows you what a ghost can do for you, kind of like a guide. This guy. Now, it is a campy version of what we go through as psychics, but again, I have actually worked with ghosts and things like that who have helped me along the way, who have guided me to books, who have guided me to certain people, to have guided me to a knowing, or have made me see through their eyes a situation they've gone through. I do have, like I said, one particular that I worked with for a very long time. Once I got to a certain level, he went and rested. I guess it's what my grandfather needed. I will be giving you guys the, here we go, the guest link. Let's do that right now. We're going to do that. We're going to give you the guest link on Facebook. I'm going to let that come up. Once we have the guest link, you are more than welcome to come and sit with me and talk to me, and we can discuss this on air, or I can do a reading for you. Now, I thought I saw somebody with a question here. How does a person connect with their guide or guides and know they are good? Wow, that is an amazing question. Connecting with your guides or guardians, even your ancestors, which is again that form of mediumship, connecting with them is really a matter of asking. You know, I ask and give permission to all those of the light to send me someone of my ancestors who can help me here, who can send me my guides. Once your guide is there, you can always ask, you know what, if you're of the light, you can stay. If you're not, go. They have to adhere to that, especially if you put your foot down, because there are boundaries with everything. I ask and give permission of all those of the light, or my ancestors of the light who have crossed to work with me. That's a really big thing too, because now you're setting your own boundaries and saying, you know what, I only want to work with the light. I only want those people of the light. I only want my ancestors and guides. The more specific you are, the easier it will be to bring. If your intention is light, you're only going to bring light. You can feel heavy energy, but understand sometimes, especially where the dead are concerned, heavy energy and dark energy can be misconstrued. Okay, they can be mixed up. So your best thing is to ask, you know what, if you're of the light, you can stay. If you're not of light, you have to leave. One of the things I do is I work with Archangel Michael to protect me. I ask Archangel Michael and give him permission to bring those of the light who can help me, my ancestors, my guides, my guardians. That way you know you're going to be in a really good place. Thank you, Lori. That was an awesome question. Debbie says, totally feel the police, etc., should be looking into work more with mediums. You know what's really funny? They work with them more than you realize. They are there, and I really feel like this is a huge topic, because they are trusted more than we know in this day and age. Now that brings me to a really interesting show that I am now binge watching. One of my favorite all-time movies has always been The Dead Zone. I need some hearts on this one. I need people to tell me if that's one of your favorite movies too. That one is a Stephen King movie. A Stephen King novel that was turned into a movie with Christopher Walken. Really fantastic movie. But they've turned it into a television show, and it is with I can't remember his name now. He was a guy who was in the Breakfast Club when he was younger. This guy is amazing. I have been watching this show. Like I said, I've been doing my research this week, and I gave that show no credit, but I thought, I'll watch the first episode. I have now almost binge watched the entire first season, and there are 6 seasons. The reason I'm really enjoying this show is because of what Debbie brought up. This particular show, he works with the police, but he also gets into situations where there are a lot of skeptics. And the way this actor handles himself, something Michael Thomas, I can't remember his first name, the way he handles himself is so beautiful, because he gives you empathy for the psychic. He doesn't look at it as something he does. He looks at it as something that he works with. He says it all the time in the show, I don't know how this works. This isn't exactly how it works. People will ask him, well, you know what, who is the murderer? What happened? I don't know. I don't know. I can only give you what I'm being given. And this is one of the things that I say too, because sometimes we see things through the eyes of the perpetrator or the eyes of the deceased ones, like we physically become them. This actually happened with my grandmother on my father's side. She actually showed me herself in a kitchen and being bound to this house. And in that, I had to do some really cool work, actually. It was really interesting. But I saw it through her eyes. And it was a really neat experience because she didn't say anything. She didn't have to talk. And it has occurred to me recently that I actually rarely get a spirit who stands in front of me, like physically stands in front of me, who will actually use words. And that occurred to me again during my research this week. I was watching another film on Prime Amazon, which is fantastic, and it's called Odd Thomas. And if you guys can watch that movie, I would really, really suggest it. Again, another fun movie. This particular movie, he talks about, he actually says it. He goes, ghosts don't talk. They don't say anything, but you can feel them and you know what they're trying to tell you and you know what they're trying to show you. And that's really what it is about. So all of these different movies are really interesting because they give you glimpses as to what it's really like to speak to the dead. Now, going back to the Dead Zone, there was one very particular episode that I really enjoyed, and the character of John Smith is actually, he is actually on jury duty. Okay, it doesn't happen, people. Does not happen. If you are a known psychic, if you are in the public eye, more than likely you're not going to get called to jury duty. Why? Because it actually can color the outcome. Now, it's a really interesting thing because that's actually the process that they go through in this particular episode. He works with something called psychometry. Now, psychometry is the ability to touch something and actually be able to read through touch. So he can connect to the dead through touch. He touches something, he's taken into a particular scenario, he sees the scenario, he sees the dead people, he sees the information, and he becomes that person within the scenario. Psychometry is the ability to pick up an object, to pick up an object and be actually transported or get the information from the object. And how that works is that objects have energy, and that energy is connected to the person. So we are computers, biocomputers, and you've heard me say this before. We are biocomputers. So I connect to you, you connect to me, you download all my information, I download all my information to you. Only difference is I can read it. So when we touch an object, when we're in a house, there is a residual key signature that's left there. So after you die, when people walk into a room and go, I can still feel that person. Yes, you can. Their energy is still there. And until it's cleared, it will never fully dissipate. In the Bastille, which is in France, it's a prison. There is a story of a man who was put in there when he was very young for stealing something, and he was there until his death. I believe was in his 80s. They still toured the Bastille, I believe, and you can go past this particular cell and you can still feel his energy because it's a very small cell. It was like 8 by 8, and he would like walk back and forth, walk back and forth, walk. Can you imagine years, a lifetime in one cell, one key signature? And a key signature is like a fingerprint, okay? And that fingerprint can only belong to you and your spirit. So Kim Borg, yes, Kim Borg, I'm totally going to have to watch this show. Have you found that there are certain signs from our guides that are showing that they want to connect with us? Yeah, they make it obvious. They'll come to you in your dreams. They'll put things in your way. Now, before I go on, Kim Borg, I'm glad you came on the show. We have our 3 winners for my contest. The questions were, who is my favorite character in Jumanji: The Next Level? And why? Kim Borg, you are correct. It was Mouse Finbar, and he is an animal communicator. I was showing a few scenes earlier. So we have our 3 winners, Sarah Mitchell, Kim Borg, and Jody Antle. You guys have won an animal communication session with me. So now all you have to do Just email me, message me, we'll set it up, and congratulations. And it's really interesting because I said a lot of people actually said Bethany, and Bethany had turned into the horse. So that's more shape-shifting than animal communications. But the last scene of the movie with the horse, which I had shown earlier, and also the scene with the camels, those are very cognitive of what I work with and what I go through. And he is my favorite character. Also, because they call his skill linguistics, animal linguistics. I love that term. So, Jody, yes. Kim, yes. Sarah, awesome. So excited for you guys. I'm excited to do your readings. So now, getting back to what we were talking about. Over the years, Debbie says, I've had many ghost spirits visit me, but I need more and hoping to develop that. It's just about sitting quietly. And again, it's that whole concept of the dead zone, this area of our brain that is a zone that is kind of neither here nor there. For John Smith, that dead zone is populated by these spirits. That's his place of information. We call it the in-between place. Now, what's really interesting is that if you want more experiences speaking to the dead, talking to those who are, I've got a crazy cat happening here, talking to the dead, connecting with spirits on the other side, it really is a matter of doing nothing. I ask and give permission to all those of the light to allow those from the other side to come and connect with me. And then you go about your day. And the reality is the answers are always there. The information is always there. The connection is always there. It's about not dismissing it. It's happening to us always. Crazy cat playing with a tiger's eye, which is really interesting stone because that is the stone of courage and confidence. I find that ironic. If you want to do this work, tiger's eye is a really good one to work with because it gives you the courage to do the work, because a lot of people are afraid of what they're going to see. That is the biggest thing that keeps people from this work, is the fear of the work itself. If you come from a place of light, only those things of light will come. Now, here's the interesting part of this topic. Just because it's a thing of light doesn't mean it isn't going to be scary. I have worked with those who have crossed over in traumatic ways, whether there have been suicides or murders, unsolved cases, things like those, cold cases. They're not happy things, but you have to understand, if a spirit is coming to you, they're coming to you because you're necessary, because you need to work on that particular thing with them. Now, you also have rights and privileges that state, I don't want to do this. There have been many times when I've had to actually turn things down because it didn't feel right for me to do, and I've handed it off to somebody else. It was either too close to me, something I didn't want to handle, or I kept getting the sense this one's not for me. It is for somebody else. Cindy Gorman says, I see an old lady spirit once over my bed above me, floating for 2 seconds and was gone. It blew me away, and I saw lights once going up to the ceiling. It was nice and pretty. Maybe it was a spirit guide. It could have been many things. This is why you have to ask, what is that? What was that? Questions are very important after the fact. Be aware while the experience is happening, what images are you getting? Are you getting names? Are you getting faces? Right? Stay with that experience, but don't analyze it during the experience. That is the biggest thing I can tell anybody about any form of psychic work, but mediumship very specifically. Because the reality is that when we are experiencing it, we're on a certain vibe. We're in our bodies, we're in our spirits, we're in our hearts, we're in our souls. The second we become analytical, we've changed our vibration. This is when spirits tend to go away, right? What's the first thing we do when we see a spirit? We force ourselves into our head. Oh my God, what just happened? Right? When we do that, we are now shifting our vibration. So the reality is when we shift our vibration out of that one that helps us see, then we question, okay, did it really happen? Our analytical mind kicks in. What is necessary when we work with mediumship or any other skill when it comes to being psychic is the calm body. Okay, you know what? I know you're there. I see you. I'm experiencing you. And really just breathe. Breathe is the key. Understand too, from the ages of 0 to 7, we see with the pupil of we see with our whole eye, our pupil, our periphery. This is why from 0 to 7, kids are more apt to be able to see spirits than an adult. Because once we start going to school, we're trained to focus our eye, become more analytical. Now we're using our pupil. This is why when we rest and our eye starts to open a bit, we start to see the other side more clearly. But what do? We freak ourselves out. We pull ourselves right back into that pupil, right back into our heads, and now we can't see. And we think, oh, well, you know what? It was just an experience, and we dismiss it. Dismissing things is the key to anybody staying, I hate to use that word, blocked, because the reality is it's in not dismissing, in acknowledging that it actually happened, right? Did it happen? Give me a sign that it happened. Give me a sign that I'm supposed to work with this spirit, right? And also having a posse of people around you, people who understand this kind of work, people you can ask questions of. I find that incredibly helpful too. I have a team of people that I can go to, that I work with. And if you watch the movies, the psychic always has people around them who support them. You know, in The Dead Zone, John Smith has Bruce. He is the infallible sidekick who continually is there for him. You know, the ex-girlfriend who's empathetic towards him and makes him still feel like a real person. And that's a big part of it too, is being a real person. It's not easy. Okay, this work is not easy. Everybody wants to see ghosts. Everybody wants to help. Everybody wants to be open to this aspect. Please understand, this is not a lifestyle that is easy at times. It can hinder relationships, interfere with them. It can drive you crazy. Can you just, okay. What are you doing, nerd? No, leave the snake alone. Go. I don't know what's with you today. She's on crazy crack, I'm telling you. And animals are a big part of mediumship too, because your relationship with your animal becomes deeper and it changes. And there are going to be points when, yeah, you do think you're crazy. And there are going to be points when you say to yourself, I can't tell anybody I just experienced this, or else they're going to think I'm absolutely insane. Now, I have, oh, I did it. Oh my goodness. I am going to put I'm so excited about this topic that I forgot to put the link in. Here is our guest link for today. I would love you guys to join me so we can have a bit more discussion what your favorite movies are. What have you learned from these particular films? Have you even been aware that these films can teach you something? Because they can. Again, shows like The Dead Zone and Dresden Files, which I do like, actually. I think it's a really good movie. But the one film, too, that I really enjoyed was called Solace. Sir Anthony Hopkins, everybody knows. Who knows me? I love him. He is one of my mentors as an actor. Loved him. Him, Ben Kingsley, Judi Dench, all these classical actors that I really enjoy. He did a movie with Colin Farrell, and it was called Solace, Solace. If you can get a hold of that film, watch it. Because as much as I love The Dead Zone, the TV show, that is based on psychometry. So he has to touch something. Now, in Solace, it's very similar, where he does touch something, but the way he has his visions is more realistic for me because they're choppy. They don't come in full stories, not always. They do at times, but not all the time. So a lot of times you get these clues, you get these little things that these spirits and these ghosts give you to show what they've been through, what they're going through, and what you need to find in order to help them. It is detective work. It really is detective work at times because you have to put the pieces together. There's an amazing scene in the film I was talking about earlier called Odd Thomas, where he walks into the mall just before this huge incident occurs. And someone has had a dream about this incident, and she gave him all the pieces of the dream. She saw, she heard music. She saw a carousel. Whoops. No, you've never done that before. Down. Woo, there we go. Flying cat. Okay, so she sees a carousel, she hears music, she sees water flowing, and she sees something else. And then he goes, oh yeah, crowd cheering. He goes to the mall, and what's really interesting is he looks at the store with the TVs, a crowd cheering. All of a sudden, he sees all the carousels, he sees the music in the carousels, and all of a sudden, all the pieces come. The revelations will be there. The reveal will always be there because the reality is that when you are given signs, you will be given the information to go with it to make it all fit. Okay, so you may not understand it at first, but that's okay. A lot of times what will happen now, I'm getting a lot of people coming in, but unfortunately I'm not getting pictures. Or make sure you have turned off your computer and then turned it on again. That's helpful because it puts it closes all your background apps. So I have Julie Snigova here, but I cannot see her. And Debbie, I'm going to try bringing you in, but I don't know if we're going to have sound with you because I know that's been an issue for us. Oh, she's gone. Okay, so Julie, oh, there she is. Hi, how are you, Debbie?
I'm good. Can you see me?
Oh my God.
I'm on my desktop, okay?
Holy Mother in Heaven. We have been working for a few days, Debbie and I, on this. How are you? How are you, lovely? Julie, I see you there.
I'm great.
Tell me.
You're fading in and out, but you're there.
Am I? Okay, good. I'm glad I'm there. So what can I do for you today? What questions do you have for me?
My question is, going along the line of guides and spirits, I often call out to people, and you've been seeing my comments, but I really can't, I know I sense people are there.
Yes.
I know spirits there. I'm always curious of those who passed through me. My biggest question was, who passed before me? Who is been with me these last 2 months? Because I have been reaching out desperately.
There have been two. One is father, is standing behind you. And the other one is a female, but she stands well back, so I see her as a guide. So these are questions you can ask yourself. Who are you? Why are you standing in front of me? And then you'll get a thought, you'll get a vision, you'll get some sort of, like, I don't know how many times I'll have a vision of something and then I'll look up and the word will be sitting there in a book, right? And I'll be like, okay, that's my validation. So always ask for validation. Who are you? Confirmation. Show me.
I need names.
Sorry?
I would love to hear names.
For you mean, or right now?
Sorry?
For you mean, or right now in this moment?
In this moment, father name and female name.
The female, I don't know, because that's an etheric. That's not an ancestor. It feels like a guide. The father, I keep getting something with Paul, but I don't feel it's connected to him. I don't know who Paul is, but he's someone who's with him, and that's the one he wants to talk about. There's somebody here. Well, I know it feels like a father figure, like I said, but then there's a Paul, and he says you need to set up a time. Forgiveness is necessary. It's a forgiveness thing. Do you have a Paul in your life where you've needed forgiveness, or a boyfriend or somebody from your past?
No Pauls. Nope.
Okay.
I have a few people, but I'm not going to say their names that I have to forgive. But yeah,
person, he's going like this. He goes, yes, 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 and he's very insistent. I need you to go back, not right this moment, but I need you to go back in time and look for the person who is a Paul. And I feel like you're younger. It's almost in your teenage years. This is somebody who feels very nonplussed. It's almost, they say the most insignificant events are the seemingly insignificant events are the events that are most powerful in our lives. For you, there is somebody, and I'm looking you at the age of probably about between 14 and 15, maybe even 16. There is someone named Paul, and he's saying you have to forgive them for something they did. And I feel like it's almost like, I don't know if it's an argument, I don't know if it's a skirmish, but I see you and you're really, really upset at this person. Okay. I need you to go back on that. Outside of that, Dad is there.
There's a couple of someone who was very close to me, my best buddy, a few years ago. I was wondering if he was around. And a girlfriend.
No, he's laughing. He's at peace. No, he's at peace. Your dad is standing right there.
What do you see about my dad? So if I know that's to be true, let's put it that way.
I feel like the man who's standing with me right now is a little bit heavier. So he's not a thin, slight man. He's a little bit heavier, a little stocky. That's the word I would call it. He's got your coloring lighter. The face is a bit rounder. Yeah, that's what I see. But he's not saying a lot. He just keeps focusing on what needs to be done. What needs to be done.
What needs to be done?
The forgiveness, the Paul. But I really feel like this particular, now, does that description at least fit? If it doesn't, that's okay.
No.
Yeah, I didn't think
I don't know who the hell this Paul is. I really don't.
I'm not worried about Paul. I'm talking about your dad. The man I'm describing is dad.
Not really.
Okay. What does dad look like for you?
What does my dad look like?
Yeah. What is your dad?
He has glasses. He had jet black, the old typical 50s. He did have tattoos on his body. He did have a bit of a pot belly, but he really wasn't.
So stocky. Yeah, he was stocky. I would call that stocky.
Like a little bit, only because he had a pot, Yeah,
because he was older. He was older. Stocky. His face was rounder, correct? He didn't have like high cheekbones like me.
No.
Okay. So you and I, so notice how, and this is for everybody out there, notice how we're describing the same thing, but just with different wording, right? So this is important to understand. This man is I feel like he is a very loving man. He's a very gentle man. He's very much like you. You two have similar personalities. I feel like he's the one who's going to guide you. He's the one who's been with you for the last 2 months. He's been with you for the last 2 months. Yep. And that is guaranteed. He has been with you. Who's David?
I wonder. David?
Yeah. Who's David?
That's David.
Yeah. No, he's not past. I don't feel this person's past. I feel like this person's here.
I know a David. I grew up with him in Montreal, but he lives in Montreal still.
Okay.
We're friends on Facebook, but.
Okay. Yeah. So there is a message for him. There is a female out there waiting that he needs to connect to put a past life in check, to connect to a past life. So there's someone who's going to come into his life that he feels an affection for. Just acknowledge her. That's it. He just needs to acknowledge her. Tell him that, leave it alone. That's it. That's all he needs to know. Okay. So even have him watch that. Thank you so much for trying so hard to get on the show and tell Bubble. Thank you. All right. We'll talk soon. Okay.
Yep. Ciao.
All right, let's get Julia in here. All right, Julia, hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you, Angel?
I'm amazing, thank you. So what is your question for today?
I was wondering if you could connect with my dog, Luke.
Is this a tan dog? A dog who's tan? Because I see a very thin tan dog.
He was chubby-ish.
Oh. This isn't the dog I'm seeing. This dog almost feels like a rescue. He feels like a dog who almost comes from another country, like Bolivia. Hang on 1 second. I want to see who this dog is for you. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm going to go backtrack here. That's your spirit animal. Your spirit animal is actually dog. If you were to turn into an animal, you would be dog, but it's very, very specific. It's dogs who need rescuing, dogs who need help, dogs who need, it's almost like you're the saint of the dogs. You should be working with dogs. You should be volunteering with dogs. And the worse they're off, the more you should be doing with them. Where your dog Luke is concerned, all I get is happiness. All I get is laughter. I get a tail wagging like this, a tail wagging. A dog who liked a lot of, what do they call it? A lot of attention. This dog, you had to look straight at the dog. When it wanted your attention, you had to look right at him. He wasn't going to leave you alone until you got the attention. He's in a great way. He's in a great space. This dog is more white and brown, because I get whites in the dog as well.
He was gray-brown, more brown and gray. I mean, he was brown when he was a puppy, and now he's turned to be a more grayish. He only had like a small white spot in the chest.
That's okay. So the white and browns are there. I'm not seeing the gray. So I see the white and I see the brown. But he's happy. He seems really good. He seems really happy. You also have spirits around you. So here's a really good example of mediumship. You have grandmother on great-great-grandmother on father's side is standing with you. And then you have also mother's mother who is standing with you. So your grandmother on your mother's side. They're telling you, whisper to the dead. You can talk to people. You can talk to animals. You can talk to animals, specifically dogs would be your forte, but you can also talk to the dead. I would suggest for you as a hobby, go into mediumship.
Well, I was trying to connect to Luke, or any other spirits, and I don't hear anything.
Yeah, but you're trying, right? It's not about trying. It's about going, I want to connect. So one of the things they're showing me for you too is use a candle. Sometimes readers and psychics, especially when they're starting, need a tangible object to be able to connect. So when we talk about a tangible object, a candle, right? A little white candle. So all you have to do is a little white candle, light it and go, all those of the light, I'd like you to come through. So what you're creating is a little gate. Okay, a gate pass between the two worlds. When you finish that work, if you're using an object, and this is for everybody out there, make sure that that object is turned down. So thank you, I send you back to where you came from, and you turn out the light. Okay. Always gratitude at the end of a reading, at the end of any connection. For you, it will be easier the most, but they're saying you need to use a candle. You need to use a candle. Another movie that's really good that somebody just brought up, actually, Marie-Claude, is Ghost. That's the whole idea that somebody's trying to connect to you, somebody's trying to give you, and you don't want it, right? So for you, you want it. So if you want it, there are things that you can do because we're a tangible society that you can actually touch and feel. Luke was saying that he felt dehydrated at the end. He couldn't eat, he couldn't drink. Does that make sense? Yeah, he felt very dehydrated at the end. So again, that image of the dog that I saw who was emaciated, right? Those are the kinds of animals that you can work with, is transition as well. Animals, end of life care. You doing this kind of stuff, I know you're a very sensitive person, but that kind of work for you would be really great. Something about, did you have a cat around at the time? Was there a cat? Because he keeps seeing this little cat, and the cat has a mouse.
No cat, no mouse.
Dog who's coming to her. Yeah, he's watching the cat. He says that there was a cat in the house who kept chasing a mouse. And I don't know that the cat was alive. I think the cat may have been dead. So just so you know, you may have spirits in your house already. One of them, did you ever see your dog? Okay, did you ever see Luke looking at you and then looking at something, like something was there and he was trying to show you, but nothing was there?
Not really, but there was a cat 8 years ago in this house, yes. Oh. And then it just left and never came back.
Okay, so that's the cat. Okay, so that was the cat. Because the cat keeps coming. He keeps showing me the cat. He keeps showing me the cat. And he really liked the cat. And he never really understood the cat, but he liked the cat. Okay, the cat.
I wouldn't say he liked it.
Yeah, he did. He was curious. He was always curious about the cat. He's looking at the cat. What is this thing? What is that? But yeah, so he mentions the cat as well, and the cat was there. But notice how, for those of you out there, how that took some detective work. I saw the cat. I was like a dog on the bone, if you'll excuse the pun, about the cat. You were saying that the cat was there about eight years ago. So that cat was something he remembered. That's all he's doing, is giving you a memory, right? He's telling you what he felt about certain things that he couldn't voice for himself. They're showing me animal communication, something you need to look into, okay? Because you could be really good at it. All right.
Does he say what happened to him? Does he know what happened?
No, he just lay down and fell asleep. No, he's done. It was like that, fast.
Does he tell you who he is with right now?
It's funny you say that, because I was looking into that earlier. There's another dog with him. There are two other dogs with him. And understand, when you're crossing the Rainbow Bridge, they don't have to be dogs that belong to you. He has a pack that he's with. There is a dog. There are two dogs with him. One is small and white, almost looks like a Kleenex box. And then there's a larger dog. And the larger dog I really like. There are two dogs. One is like a Lassie dog, like a Collie, and the other one's like a Marmaduke dog, like a Great Dane. Okay, but it's the little dog that he's really connected to. He's really connected to the little dog. So he's not alone.
And he is with a smaller dog, smaller than him, because his friend passed away like 3 months before him.
Yeah.
So the white dog, but it was the same size dog.
Yeah. So that's the little dog. Okay. So that must be the little dog, because there's a real connection between those two. And that was the first one that came through. Okay.
So they're not with our parents, grandparents.
Sure, they can be. They can go back and forth just because they're in the. Okay, so this is a really good point you just brought up, and this really speaks to mediumship, because the reality is we believe we are here, we pass over, and then we go to heaven or whatever we believe, or we reincarnate. The reality is like an angel who are limitless. They can be with everyone, everywhere, in every dimension, at every past, present, and future. We are not linear. So they can be over the rainbow bridge. They can be with parents. They can be, they're spirits. They can be wherever they need to be. They can be with you. I can be with my son right now. I can tap into him. Part of my spirit goes to him, right? So yes, absolutely they can be. Mother crossed over. Is your mother crossed over? Who's the mother who's crossed over? Okay.
My mother's still here.
Okay, there's an older woman, mother's side. So I'm looking at grandmother was here
It
earlier.
could be her mother, but she crossed over before I even known her.
That's fine. That's irrelevant, because she's holding a dog in her hands, but she's got other animals around her too. So the grandmother, the mother's mother, sits there, and I feel like there's a real connection between the grandmother and mother that goes beyond mother and child. It's almost like they look like each other, or they're very similar in their personalities, but they have animals around. She has animals around them, and there is a dog, and she's going, I have them. Okay, I have them. So they're being cared for. Thank you, Julia. I truly appreciate you coming through today.
Thank you, Angel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I now have Carmela. Carmela, I'm going to let you wait there just for a second, if you don't mind. You look fantastic in that like green space, by the way. Okay, so I'm just going to take Carmel Taylor is saying, good afternoon, Angel. Hope all is well. I'm getting a message from an old fiance that has passed, but I cannot understand what he's telling me. Do you hear, or yes, as soon as you said X who has passed, he's just telling you goodbye. He wants to let you go now because you guys have past life together. And that past life together was very, very powerful and very, very strong. And because it was so strong, he's just saying goodbye. Now it's time for him to go to the next level of who he is. Okay. So now we're going to go and we're going to show Carmela.
Hi.
Carmela. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thank you very, very much. You see spirits.
I do?
Yeah. I keep seeing them behind you, and they're trying to come through. Do you ever get those moments at night where your heart just goes, wow, I don't know what that feels like, but it's almost like an anxiousness and you don't know where it's coming from?
All the time.
Yeah, it's because you're seeing ghosts. Okay,
oh, that's great.
without seeing them. So this is about empathy, right? This is about the whole concept that sometimes we feel them without seeing them. That's still a form of mediumship. Okay, so you need to be a little bit more aware of that and just ask who's there. If you ask who's there, you are going to get an image. Okay, say thank you, say bye, say hi, whatever the case might be. Okay, awesome.
That's cool.
Questions? What do you want to know?
I just want to know if you have any readings for us, if there's anyone who wants to.
What's your name, lovely?
Julia.
Julia. Guys, move over just a little bit.
Sorry.
To you, Julia. Hi, Julia. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Really, really, really good.
Good.
Okay, so this is a really interesting thing. I'm happy you're on this show because there are different ways of speaking to the dead. There are those who can just tap into them, empathy, can see them, all that kind of stuff. And then there are the old ones. The old ones used to have to, even though they could see them in their home, they would come to them, whatever, the easiest way for them to connect was through tangible objects, but they'd have to go to the cemetery. They'd actually have to sit with the dead person in order to speak with them. That is where your gifts and abilities would shine. You would be able to speak with them through the grave, so to speak. That is an ability of its own. So you have a really old ability. Are you guys South American by any chance?
No.
Okay, what is your background?
Italian.
Oh, you're Italian. Wow, that's really odd. Okay, usually that's a very South American gift, not necessarily an Italian gift. The Italians are more like Carmela. So that's, that's a very traditional way. So you, my friend, and you actually have very much more of a South American feel to you. There might be something in your past lives that's South American, like Mexican Day of the Dead, Fiesta de Muerte, Cinco de Mayo, all those kinds of things. That's when you're going to feel the most restless and out of sorts, because that's when the wall is very thin for you. Halloween, another time when the walls are very thin for you. Okay. Do you ever feel like you're just going nuts sometimes, Julia?
Yes.
Just take a breath and a glass of water. That will ground you. Okay. That will help. Okay, because your medicine or your gift and ability with the dead is very much earth based. Okay.
Okay.
Very much. You have an ancestor. It is 4 generations back. It's a man. It comes from the mother's side, and he's saying that that's where the gifts come from, is back there. 3-4 generations back, there was a woman like that. You guys need to go through your family tree because they're very gifted people there. Very well loved, celebratory, safe. Has somebody just gone through an illness in your family? I feel like somebody who's older is going through an illness. So there's something coming up. There's something pending with somebody older who's going to go through an illness. Carmel, you need to keep your eyes on that. What do you feel about it? What are your knowings about it? I need you to trust that because that's what's going to help you and your family through. I feel like it'll happen on the mother's side. Okay. Yeah. And it's something that is linked to somebody in the past. So somebody's gone through something similar in the past on the mother's side, so it might be something hereditary.
Okay.
Okay. But it's nothing to be afraid. It doesn't feel like something to be afraid of. Okay. Awesome. Thank you for allowing me to read you guys today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I love the colorful background. That was really beautiful. I need a room like that with that kind of green. So Debbie says, thank you. Really have no idea who Paul is. And this is Dad, perhaps a father figure. Female behind would like to know who. Big on proof of names and who is there with me. Okay, so what I need you to do, Debbie, because you are open to this, in the next few days, I want you to ask for validation of this reading. And then I want you to come back next week and we can talk about it because you're a regular on my show. So I want you to ask, if that was my dad, I need a sign. What is the name of that particular person? Big on proof. Here's a really, really interesting thing that with mediumship is important. You do need to get proof. It is sometimes hard. So let's go back to the dead zone. Really interesting thing. Sixth Sense, a movie with a little kid. We were talking about the whole idea of being open and seeing. With children, sometimes they don't get names. They don't get faces. They don't get these things. They just know that these people are there. They can describe to you what these people are like, but they can't get names. And also understand the dead don't necessarily speak. Okay, so the reality is that if you have pictures, go through pictures. If a reader says, hey, this person is there, one of the things that you can do too is for Debbie, the tattoos have a lot of wisps in them. They're not hard-edged tattoos. Well, there is one that's a little hard-edged. It's really funny because I keep getting a kind of I don't know what that is, almost a flowing, like a rounded something in the tattoo. Like my tattoos are all rounded. There are no edges if you look at it, right? He has something rounded. It's almost like I don't know if they're streaks or what are they. And there is an anchor that keeps coming, but I don't necessarily think that's a tattoo thing, but there's something about an anchor with him as well. Debbie, I know you are into traveling and that kind of stuff, and you have a travel agency, but something about your family and the ocean, family and the sea that your father is connected to. So I don't know if his dad or whatever that was, but there's something there. So understand too, that it's not just about the name. It's also about what was their life? What were they like? So when you are talking to the dead, anybody, when something like that, tell me about yourself. Who are you? What are distinguishing marks on your body? Who was your wife? What were they like? What was your family like? Don't pigeonhole yourself and focus yourself on the tiny little details like the name, because then it will come. The name will come as you go deeper and deeper and deeper into the reading. Okay, that will come. And for Debbie, I keep getting other names too that are connected because there's work she needs to do. So Marie-Claude, I use a candle and I burn paper. I burn the paper with the smoke and you can get a picture. Once I have done it for my mother, who her children died and was wondering, once I had done it for a mother whose child died and was wondering if he was alone. And when I burned the paper, it was a full, beautiful little angels. Okay, so this is called candlemancy, I believe. It's a really great way of working when you're working with candles and you're working with talking to the dead through the candle, like we were talking with Julia earlier. So yes, sometimes you can ask a question, you can burn it, and the answer will come through what you see. The other thing you can do is you can write out a request. Please give me the answers to my questions where the dead are concerned. And then you place it under the candle, ask your questions, sit quietly, close your eyes. Okay, so for some people it's easier than others. Mediumship is not necessarily my forte. I do connect to the dead, but mostly with cold cases, with people who have died, who have been murdered, suicide, things like that. So Debbie's particular one, she's someone I would send to somebody who does mediumship on a regular basis. My information comes when it's absolutely necessary. That's when it's clearest. I like to give closure. I love to give that kind of stuff, but again, like I said, my own grandmother was bound, so I unbound her. The other day I had somebody who had died in a traumatic way and the family wasn't sure what was going on. I put some pieces together and they were able to see where that was. Those are the cases that I normally get. Debbie was saying that, so thank you for that. The candlemancy is amazing. And you guys can check that out on the internet as well. Oh my God, we've so gone over our time. I can't believe it's already 2:05. Thank you so much, everybody. I am going to take one last question. Is my wife here with me in this apartment? Absolutely, but it's not just her who's with you, Robert. Robert Moorcraft asked about his wife, and she's there. Absolutely, but she has other family members too. There's a dad who's with her who has his hand on the shoulder, and you have some older people who have hands on their shoulders too. You still need closure. You are one of those cases that I would take on because your feelings are starting to go into acceptance, but you feel like there is a guilt around that. There is a betrayal around, what if I move on? What if I continue my journey and my path? It's okay. She's there. She's smiling. She loves where you're headed. She loves where you're going. That's the kind of reading that I am really good with when it comes to mediumship, because then it's all clear. It's all there because there's closure and resolution necessary. So for you particularly, I would say this is a healing. Talk to her more. They're saying, your guides are saying you can talk to her way, way more. Okay. I really loved talking to everybody today. Thank you for those who've come on. We've had no technical difficulties. So thrilled with that. Love getting Debbie on. We worked really hard to get her on. Thank you to our contest winners today. That was Sarah Mitchell and Jody Antle and Kim Borg. Guys, message me, email me. If you like the show, please comment, share the show, let other people know what this is really like to be psychic, because it's an amazing lifestyle. Being psychic, it's not what you think. Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Grandpa,